My name's Avery. I was born in Launceston in 1970 and lived here my whole life. Worked at this place for about 11 years until it closed. My father worked here for 40 odd years too. My uncle worked here. Mum worked here for a short period of time. I've known this place since I was a little kid, know the insides out of it, and I've been coming here since I was a little kid. So even back in primary school, like school holidays and stuff like that, I'd come up here and visit Dad. He worked in the wool store at the top of the mill, right up the top. He was a wool buyer and a wool classer, and he started wool classing way back in the day. And wool classes at Coats Patons were it was sort of like a higher position. You had to go to TAFE school for 4 years and learn about wool, because there was no room for mistake in the quality. You had to get at the top because that supplied all the way down through to the bottom of the mill. So all the wool had to be correct blends, and if you didn't know what you was doing, you could quite easily muck that up, Well, when I was a kid, like I'd had school holidays and things like that, I'd come up and I'd bring my BMX or my push bike or whatever, and I was allowed to ride around in the wool store. It was a very family orientated place. There wasn't like the rules and stuff and regulations that you have now in big workplaces. You're allowed to get away with simple things, which was just common sense, really. It was, which is what I don't like about the world today, because it's just changed so much. You got to actually tick a box to do anything. And it wasn't like that back in the day. So primary school, I'd come up here, hang out with Dad sometimes, ride my push bike here. Dad always generally owned a ute of some sort, so we'd chuck the ute in the back. We'd go home, and I could ride my bike here from home, and it was just. And then even in primary school, we used to have tours of Coats Patons, and I'd come up here, like I already knew the place, sort of thing. So we'd come to the school and we'd do tours once a year. That happened sort of every year. And I went to West Launceston Primary School up the road, and there was tour guides here, which were a couple of old ladies who were really cool, and everyone sort of knew them. And they used to show groups of people, not just schools. They had tours generally all the time. So they'd go from the wool store right through to knitting yarn, and they'd give you samples on paper, little bits of wool, all the different stages, the carding, combing, the washing, and right through to the dye house, to the actual finished product. And so you had like a little bit of a brochure thing to take home and things like that. So it was very, very set up to show how we worked. It was really good for the public too, just not us, who worked here. So anyway, I ended up working here, and I started here in 1987. So I finished school at age 15, which was normal back then. I finished grade 10, and I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps. I wanted to be a wool classer. So I went to TAFE College in Launceston here, which was a 4-year thing. So by the time I was 19, I was a qualified wool classer. I started work 2 days after I left school at a place called Con Wool in Invermay. And I got that job through my dad because he knew everyone in the business and there was a position going there. So I stayed there till probably about 15 months or so, and then there was a position come up in the wool store up here. And it was a friend of Dad's who's still alive. He's about 98 years old now, and his name's Chicken Allen, and he was a real character, and he was retiring. So there was another job coming up, and I went for it. I had to go for it like everyone else did. I didn't get any special favours. It was quite a strict place with a hierarchy of people that were bosses to sort of be feared, sort of thing, back in the day, but they were fair, And I went for the job and I got it, and I stayed here until it closed, basically. So I'd still be here today if it was still going, Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a family operated place, and everyone's had a wife, or my wife worked with me here too. There was lots of family. My brother-in-law worked here. Everyone sort of, it was good. Yeah. Oh, look, there was plenty of funny stories. Like we had lots of things happening all the time. There was lots of jokes being played on people all the time, and like I said, it goes back to the times when you could get away with things you probably couldn't get away with now. You'd find yourself in court these days, but like the new kid would come on the block and you'd cop everything, you know, you'd get tied up around poles and just all these sorts of things behind the boss's backs, of course. You know, wasn't like out in the open, but you know, you'd get put in wool trolleys and pushed over loading bays, and there was just lots of funny things. There was just lots of characters that worked here too, but just sort of walked around, didn't seem to ever do much, but they were well known and liked and funny. But as far as stories go, there was just so many. It was just a great place for stories. Yeah, well, I was really passionate about this place too. I enjoyed being here, and as it slowed down over the last few years, which I was here, and a lot of the problems with the place were they got rid of a lot of management. There was people came in. I mean, wool sales they're still great now, but they weren't like everyone's mother used to knit, or the sister or grandmothers and stuff used to knit jumpers and garments, and I suppose a lot of the garments and jumpers and things were brought in from Taiwan and Japan, and you can go buy a jumper for $10 or $12 and instead of buying the wool and knitting it and things like that. But that sort of slowed it down. But the management came along who, after they retrenched a lot of people that knew everything about the place, like specialised in the dye houses and areas where there weren't mistakes to be made, you know, like you had to get everything right. So there was a lot of mistakes getting made towards the end with experts coming from other companies, paint companies and things like that, which was a little bit of a demise of the place, which sort of slowly started getting worse, and mistakes were happening and losing orders and things like that, which was sad. But yeah, like back when I come here to work, I think there was 853 people. Well before that, it was 2,200 people worked here. Over the road, back in the day, that was the eye hospital was the canteen for the place. That sort of gives you an idea of how big this place was, you know. But like I said, everything was so cool and good. You did the right thing, you were allowed to muck around, do whatever, but you did your work, and everyone was happy. And I'd still be here today if it was still going in that situation that it was in back in the day, you know. And that's why my dad stayed here for 40 odd years. That's why many people stayed here for so long. Like if it was a shit job, you wouldn't have stayed here, would you? Like you just don't do that, you know. If you get up and get out, don't you? But so everyone was quite happy working here. It was a family orientated thing. Everyone sort of knew everyone's name and had a joke and a banter and mouthed off to each other on the way past, and you know, it's just good. Yeah. Well, built half of Launceston. Back in the day, like they recruited people from Scotland, England. It was an English company that formed in England doing this sort of stuff here, a wool factory. They came to Launceston because they had the offer of cheap electricity, good water supplies. So Coats Patons was built on this 14 hectare land, and it was built by ox. There was no excavators. Oxes were digging it out with big blades, and people. It employed a lot of people to build this place, but it also built all the houses around here and created this area, West Launceston. There was houses. Well, people started working here and they had their wages and they built houses or they bought houses in the area. There was a big opportunity for everyone to have a really nice life, a working life, you know. It's a job that supplied many years of happiness, and many people worked here until they retired. I worked with one fella, he was here 50 years and 11 months when he retired. And most people that did retire, they were a little bit institutionalised, I suppose, because a lot of people worked here for that long. It was sad to see they'd all be dead within 5 or 10 years, you know. But that was their life. They built their families, they built their homes. They all had a great life. And yeah, it's really good. Lots of things happened that I wouldn't have known because there were so many people here. Everyone had their own little jokes and banters and things they did for people. But towards the end, I was getting, like I worked in the wool store, I was a wool classer, but then I started, like we'd unload trucks and do things like that too. But towards the end, as things slowed down, I was in the maintenance gang, so I was pulling all the machines apart and learning how all the machines went back together and cleaning them and putting them back together, and worked in dispatch where I was getting rid of orders. And we sort of started to get around a little bit over the last few years, so I learned a lot more about the place, because it was just, as they got rid of a heap of people, they were sharing the jobs around, and which was good, you know. I learnt different things and got a bit of a taste of what else went on in the mill, and learnt lots of nooks and crannies around the place. And sometimes you'd see people walking around, I was guilty of it too, you know, like if you had a bit of paper in your hand, you just go for a wander. And if anyone's seen you like a boss, you got a bit of paper, you know, like must be up to something. So you just wander around talking to people all day, you know. But it was, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I've got all the sports catalogues for those, or not all of them, but I've got some dating back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It was held at York Park, like you said. It was not only orientated for sports people. There was plenty of people not really sporty, but there was events for like egg and spoon race, or fishing line throwing and catching things on hooks, and all these really funny events. But it was like Launceston Olympics, you know. It was that big, you know. It was held, and they had their own soccer teams. They had like teams, sports teams, bowling teams. My dad was in the 1946 Premiership team when they won the Premiership for soccer. A lot of his friends are all in the team, you know. I've still got the original photos of those, and it was not just work, you know. Like they did things after together too. People hung out together. They were friends in general life, and they'd still come to work together. They'd done sporting events. Yeah, it was good. Like quite often I'd have some of Dad's mates at home all the time, you know, visiting. Dad was a bit of a handyman like myself, and he'd fix things for him, or, you know, there was always someone from work at home, you know, most weekends or whatever. Yeah, it was good. Well, it's different. Like it's sad to me, but I'm also happy they didn't smash the place down, you know. I'm glad the church bought and took over and have done what they've done. You know, they've restored all the roof and made it a very livable place, and they've used the areas for different businesses. There's many businesses in here, like yourself, and, you know, there's storage and God knows what's here now. There's that many businesses, but they've utilised the area really well. And I walk through the place, it's a lot different because like a lot of the roofing's gone from out here in the laneway, so I can still tell where I am, and I can still tell by, like, I like the aspect it's got all the old doors and cupboards and things like that. There's so many, like, it hasn't been gutted. Like, I'm a bit of a softy at heart for old buildings, and I own an old house which I bought off a 90-something-year-old man, and I haven't gutted it and put all modern appliances in it, you know, like I have late model TVs and stuff like that, but I've kept old things, and I like that about this place because it tells a story. And I like how the church are willing to put up a lot of photos and stuff soon for this thing that's going to happen. Then people can walk in, because a lot of people don't know the history of the place. Sometimes I say to people, I worked at Coats Patons, and they go, "Oh, what's that?" You know, because it was 20 odd years ago when it closed. And I actually ran and organised the 20-year reunion for the place, which was a huge success. And we had a lot of people come back here on the day. The people worked here way before I did, you know, and they were so happy to see it and be in the place, because otherwise you didn't really come back unless you knew someone. So they hadn't seen it for a lot of years. And like, for an example, there was one old lady here, and she walked up to me and she said, "Oh, your name's Howard," you know. She goes, and I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Your dad wouldn't have happened to have been Bobby?" And I said, "Yeah, that was Dad." And she pulls out this coat and whips out these photos that I had never seen of my father before, taken in the 30s, where she was friends with him and some other people, and they all hired a car and went to Hobart. And that's how friendships rolled on, you know, like it was just massive. It was really good, you know, just to see so many people back here for a reunion, and I hope this one is just as successful, because I can't see why it won't be, because it's, you know, people want to see, like I suppose if they walked back into this building and it was all stripped out, there was nothing left, there were no old sliding doors, metal doors and stuff, it just wouldn't have the same feel about it. It tells a story just by looking at things, that it was something. For those who don't even know, it was something. And if they're interested enough, they'll find out, you know. So good on the church for doing that, keeping that aspect of it. Well, I'd tell them what it was, because I know, but I've actually heard people say, like, wonder what was in that brick building. You know, it's massive, that brick building, it's Door of Hope. That surely can't be just a church, you know. And I tell them, you know, like it used to be a wool factory, and it employed a lot of people in Launceston and built half of Launceston, and it was a great place to work, and I worked there. So, yeah, it's like I said, it's good to, look, I know a lot of people my age and a lot of people whose mother or father might have worked here know, but a lot of Launceston don't know what this place was, because wool and knitting is a thing of the past for a lot of people. They don't see it. They don't see their mothers knitting a jumper anymore. You know, and wonder where they got their wool from. You know, kids probably don't even know sheeping is these days. You know, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But anyway, I just hope that a lot of the structure and like I said, the old things in the place don't change. Hope someone doesn't come along in later management and go, this is not the look we're looking for anymore, and replace it all, because that'd be sad. And I just wish them all the best with the place, and hope that they keep all that and keep the history alive, keep things like this happening, keep photos. Photos tell 1,000 words, as they say, you know, and I myself collected 1,700 photos, which I supplied to everyone on USB sticks if they asked for them and wanted them. To anyone that wanted them, I've gave them to this place too. And there's plenty of wall space around here, so all they've got to do is put them up, and that'll just keep the place alive, I think. So, yeah, good on them.